Hello, welcome back to my channel, and also Happy New Year, everybody. It's 2024. 2023 certainly came and went. Oh my god, the pocket of my blazer is inside out. So today we're going to be talking about all of the games that I played in 2023. Not all of these games are necessarily going to be 2023 releases, but most of them are. And a lot of these games I've actually made videos on throughout the year. I think I'm going to make a playlist or something. So if you want to like marathon them, honestly, by the time that this goes out, a lot of people will probably be back in school / back at work. But if you want to marathon a bunch of my videos back to back, I am of course going to give you that option. Please be sure to like and subscribe. This year I played 24 games. In chronological order, they were Bayonetta 3, Kirby and the Forgotten Land, Fire Emblem Engage, Naruto, Ultimate Ninja Storm, Abzu, Cris Tale, Spiritfarer, Elden Ring, Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII Reunion, The Last of Us Part 2, Cereza and the Lost Demon, Persona 3 Portable, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Gravity Rush 2, Master Detective Archive Ring Code, Monster Prom, Guardians of the Galaxy, Judgment, Detective Pikachu Returns, Genshin Impact, Baldur's Gate 3, Spider-Man 2, Lost Judgment. And let's just hop right into it. The first video I made this year was about Bayonetta 3, so that'll definitely kick off your playlist marathon viewing experience. Bayonetta 3, not good. I think mechanically, visually, is it the best in the franchise? Sure. We can give that to them because it fails on so many other counts. Like, I do think the combat is the worst because it relies so much on the big monster stuff. So the pacing feels really slow and the story was stupid. And the fact that they have to bend over backwards, the Olympic level gymnastics that they have to do to make me believe that Bayonetta wants to get together with Luca, is that his name? That mediocre man? You want me to sit here and think that the most powerful lady in the universe is going to be with him? Be so for real right now. Please? Please. I give Bayonetta 3 6 out of 10 culturally insensitive alternate universe Bayonettas. Kirby and the Forgotten Land is fine. I think it's a perfectly fine platformer. It's probably really good for kids. I don't know if that's my demographic, TBH, but if you're a parent and you spend your time watching me and you want your kids to play games, I feel like Kirby and the Forgotten Land is an excellent place to start. Like, you don't even have to read to be able to know what's going on in that game. It's exactly what you want out of a Kirby game. It's very cool that it has a much more difficult post game that more experienced players can go back into and really figure out what's going on narratively, but it just wasn't really for me. I'll give it 6 out of 10 big mouth holes. Next, we have a game that I personally would like to thank. I would like to thank Nintendo. I would like to thank Intelligent Systems because my coverage on this game really helped my channel pop off in 2023 a little bit. I'm still not monetized. Please feel free to like and subscribe. It's free. It helps the channel. And I don't have a job. So if you want to do that, last time I made this video, I had just gotten let go from a job. So it's really funny how history repeats itself. Fire Emblem Engage. I remember having a lot of negative feelings about that game, but in my heart, I look back on it a little fondly. I am going to replay it sometime in 2024, so time will tell. That video is coming, the Fire Emblem Engage retrospective, even though it's not old, and we'll see how I feel about it then, now that there's DLC and that there's been some fixes to the game. Narratively, she's a little flawed, not a little, super duper, and the characters suck. Controversial Engage take. I don't mind that they look like Genshin Impact characters. I think Genshin Impact looks really good. I'm gonna give Engage 6.5 unnecessary plot irrelevant characters. In February of this year, I was recovering from my wisdom tooth removal. My heart also exploded. The doctors don't really know what happened, and that gives me a lot of peace internally, knowing that, I don't know, maybe I'll die. That was really fun for me. And while I was recovering from both of those things happening to me literally on the same day, I did rewatch the entirety of Part 1 Naruto, and part of my retread of the franchise was replaying Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm. I really love the Naruto games. Even if they're not that good, I think the fighting is really fun, and I honestly think the later Ultimate Ninja Storm games are the best way to intake the franchise because they cut out all the bullshit and they portray a lot of the events in a really beautiful way. However, the first UNS game sucks. It's really bad. I was so disappointed. It was so confusing too, because I literally didn't know how to progress the story forward. I was just completely lost. It was not a fun experience. I wouldn't recommend it, but the Shippuden games are where it's at. Those ones are all very good. For Naruto, I don't know, I give it like 3 out of 10 insensitive jokes about women's bodies. Abzu is a cool indie game. You play as a robot who's exploring the water. It's very beautiful. I don't really have much to say about it. It's a very short, cool exploration game that's about preserving the environment. Abzu's gonna get like 7.5 out of 10 robot sharks. I didn't finish Cris Tales, but I think the premise is really cool. It's in the same genre of like indivisible indie games, big parties, a world that isn't big, but it feels kind of grand in scope. And the gameplay and art style bear some similarities. I quite like Indivisible, so I thought I would be into Chris Tales, but I just had a hard time getting into it. But that's not to say it's a bad game. I'm going to give it like 7 out of 10 girls who can travel through time. I got through a really big chunk of Spiritfarer and then just dropped it at one point because I didn't know how to find a resource that I needed to upgrade my ship. And that game has really solidified that like cozy games, farming games, resource management games especially, that niche is not for me. It's just not really something I'm interested in. Like I struggle with Atelier games, I struggle with Animal Crossing games. I thought I would love Stardew Valley. I just got really bored, and that game has so much game in it too, and I was really excited to see it, but then I was like, I don't think I can keep going. Spiritfarer is really reminiscent of that style of game for me, even though I think the platforming makes it a little bit more engaging. I know it's a darling indie title for a lot of people, but I just wasn't really connecting with the characters. But the premise is really cool. I would give it like 7 out of 10, helping your loved ones escape purgatory. Elden Ring is very cool. However, I am too anxious to play that game because I'm so afraid of everything. I didn't make it very far, and I'm not a Souls-born person. I do want to get back into it now that I have a little bit more time, and I feel like less intimidated by really sinking my teeth into a challenging game. I was so stressed. I was like, everything is going to kill me. I'm not good. I don't even know how this game works. But the high fantasy, highly dangerous setting is very attractive to me. I have watched a lot of other people play the game, so I know there's a lot to look forward to, and I want to experience that for myself. I won't rate it. I didn't play enough of it, but I'll just say that I get the hype. Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion literally could have been a movie. That's what my video is titled, and that's how I feel. I appreciated that they drew from Final Fantasy VII Remake and updated a PSP game to make it digestible for modern audiences. I just wasn't really in love. I think the story is really weak, honestly. The interesting part of that game is the Cloud Sephiroth origin story. Zack feels pretty tertiary to the rest of that, so I really wasn't in love with it. I'm gonna give it like 5 out of 10. It's Gongaga. The Last of Us Part 2 had me in a chokehold for a few weeks. I was really thinking quite deeply about that game and consuming a lot of review content about that game. And I wrote a video about that game that I just never ended up making. But in light of recent world events, I feel a little bit more inclined to finish that video. There are some things that The Last of Us Part 2 does that I really, really like, but the messaging of some parts I find that I can't really get behind because the game's theming of universal violence just doesn't sit very well with me. I'm gonna give it like 7.5 out of 10 creepy, nasty, disgusting combination zombies. Bayonetta Origins, Cereza and the Lost Demon is one of my favorite things that I played this year. It's a very good game. I feel like because it's a smaller title and it's not like a mainline Bayonetta game for a classic Bayonetta fan, this release went a little bit under the radar, but it's a very good game. Aesthetically, it's really strong. The gameplay is great. The story is really good. The story is really, really, really good. I don't want to speak too soon, but it might be my game of the year of things that are on this list. I'm going to give it 9 out of 10 dead wisp children with British accents. Persona 3 Portable is a bad version of a good game. That's it. That's the tweet. I'm very, very, very excited for Persona 3 Reload to come out. I can't really pay for it because I don't have a job, so tipping options are below. The remake looks incredible. It's unfortunate that they're not doing the FemC. It's unfortunate that they're not doing the answer. I think that's a little scummy, perhaps, but P3P was an interesting teaser to get us excited for the next one. I'm going to give it 7 out of 10 really bad MS Paint CG cutscene stills. Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom also is up there for my top game of the year. Tears of the Kingdom is just a very well-made game. I think they did a great job of maintaining what was already good about Breath of the Wild and improving on things that maybe it was lacking in. I don't think Breath of the Wild has a particularly striking story. I don't remember what happens in that game, but Tears of the Kingdom I think will stick with me for a while. I'm gonna give it 9 out of 10 Korok Death Machines. Gravity Rush is one of my favorite games of all time. It was very cool to revisit it on PS4 when I originally played it on the PS Vita. It's so good. It still holds up. It's very entertaining. It's such a good game. I really, really love it. I really appreciate it when movement feels nice in a game. Gravity Rush, when it comes to just like exploration and how fun it is to just explore the environments and be in that world, for me, it's unparalleled. Just the freedom of flight feels really good. I think they did a really good job of capturing what it would be to be a person with gravity powers who is walking up walls and gliding through a city. Gravity Rush is going to get 9 out of 10 Magic Battery Space Cats. Stay tuned for the Gravity Rush 2 video. That one will be coming soon because I do have a lot of thoughts on the game. I don't want to spoil my own opinions for that video. Please subscribe and stick around if you're interested in hearing my thoughts. It doesn't do everything that I needed it to do as a sequel. They have a lot of really good ideas, but I think the writing just falters in some spots. Some of the things that happen in that game are unnecessary. I'm going to give it 7 out of 10 retcons that don't make sense. Master Detective Archives? How is it spelled? Master Detective Archives. Rain Code. That game is insane because 70% of it is inedible garbage and the other 30% is some of the best time I've ever spent playing a video game. And the fact that those both exist on the same cartridge just doesn't sit well in my brain because the ending is so good. And now I'm invested in this world, but literally if I hadn't chewed around all the stuff that I didn't like for like 20 hours and just muscled through it because I hoped that this would be comparable to a Danganronpa game in terms of its ability to maintain my interest, I would not have known that this game was good. The ending is what makes this game good, and the setup for a universe and a sequel is what has me excited. Everything else about MDA Rain Code, absolute flop. It's crazy that they got so much wrong, and yet I stand. For the ending alone, bringing up the class average for Rain Code, it gets 8 out of 10 poorly named characters. Monster Prom was the other indie darling game that I played. If you're interested in a zany, queer-friendly procedural game that has a ton of replay value, Monster Prom is pretty fun. There are so many different scenarios to be seen in the game. It's very much a choose your own adventure game, and it has a similar feeling to playing a board game where you draw different cards and that affects the narrative of play. I'm gonna give it 8.5 out of 10 saucy monster scenarios. I have the same feelings about Guardians of the Galaxy as I do about Crisis Core, in that this should have been a movie or a cartoon. Like, that would have really killed as a Netflix miniseries, but as a game, it's horrible. I was interested in the plot, but I was just so bored of everything else. Also, the party is so unlikable. And that's like the main draw of the films, is that they're funny and that they have good chemistry together. But I was so sick of the characters fighting at a certain point that I was like, I'm just not interested in seeing this through to the end. Thank you so much for having me, but I am gonna have to leave the party a little bit early. It's really mediocre. Sorry if you're a stan. I'm gonna give it 6 out of 10 arguments that didn't need to be there. I played Judgment in October, and right now I'm playing Lost Judgment. I'm on like the last chapter, so I'm almost at the end. I'm very, very excited to see how things wrap up. I think these games are both in a tough circumstance in that they are very, very good murder mystery detective games stuck inside of the Yakuza format. And the Yakuza format does not work for them. Like, the combat's horrible. The context of the combat is horrible. It makes more sense in Yakuza why they're fighting, because you are part of an established criminal organization, and that is a part of the reality that they face. But playing as a detective / lawyer, and you're in Lost Judgment, you're beating up school children, it doesn't feel good. It really doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel right. In the first game, I didn't notice it as strongly. And I think because you're against the Yakuza, it makes more sense. And you're mostly fighting with people who are criminals. So I guess it's justifiable in that way. But the first few hours of Lost Judgment, you have several fights against high school children. And then he gets a job at the school. So he's with the children that he's beating up. Like, come on. The way I've been able to describe Judgment for people who don't know what it is, it's like GTA meets Japanese soap opera. The plot is so good. Like, kudos to the writing team who were responsible for the story development, because the mysteries are incredible. And the way that the web expands and everything ties in together, they do a very good job of telling that story. It's just all the fighting is stupid. And the machismo stuff gets a little bit boring if I'm not already on board with you, which I'm not for that. For the quality of the mysteries alone, I'm gonna have to give Judgment and Lost Judgment like a 7.5 out of 10 unfeasible fights. I forgot to mention, I did replay Fire Emblem Awakening. I forgot to include that on the list and I remembered it just now. I won't talk about it. You can go watch my video. I worked really hard on it. I love that game. Detective Pikachu Returns is a bad game. I don't know what else I can tell you. I love Pokemon. I love seeing Pokemon in other contexts outside of battling, but the story is just so nothing. The game really didn't need to be made. 4 out of 10 screenshots of Pikachu smoking a cigarette. I did get a new computer this year, but I didn't want to get any games for it, so I did end up playing a lot of Genshin Impact initially because that game is free. It's not an awesome game. It's quite mindless. And again, I hate resource harvesting games, so progression in Genshin just doesn't feel rewarding or interesting to me. Like, I don't think the gameplay loop is that good. I get it. I get why people like Genshin. I give it 6 out of 10 predatory practices to get your money. Ooh. Oh no, I'm about to be basic. Baldur's Gate 3 is my game of the year. I forgot that was later on the list. I'm not finished it. I'm only on Act 2. And then something happened and I got very scared and I haven't picked it back up since then because I thought the fight was way too hard. And then I was like, okay, I need to regroup and maybe get some more levels and figure things out. It's so cool. The game is so detail oriented. I don't think I can speak highly enough of how good that game is. And I know that's not a hot take. It won Game of the Year at the Game Awards, and I think it deserved it. Just a really clean, polished product. So good. It's inclusive. There's player choice in abundance, which I think makes it really interesting as well, because no two people are really going to have identical playthroughs unless you're really trying to make that happen. But the abundance of choice and the abundance of solutions that you can explore in order to achieve different outcomes, it's wonderful. We're going to do it. We're going to do it. 10 out of 10 slutty vampires. And the last thing on my list is Spider-Man 2, which I also just made a video about if you want to go check that out for my expanded thoughts. I think the Spider-Man games are all great. You can't really fuck up the formula. And I do think the storytelling was strong in a lot of ways. I think Venom was a really great villain, and I think Kraven was terribly executed. But the Venom stuff is so good that I'm willing to look past the stupidity of Kraven. And Peter, MJ, and Harry all get really good story arcs together in the game. It was really fun. I platinumed that game in, I think, like 4 days. I really zoomed. I'm going to give it 8.5 out of 10 unedited MJ podcast episodes. It was a good game. That's the video. That's everything I played in 2023. If I had to pick like a top 5, it would be Baldur's Gate 3, Tears of the Kingdom, Bayonetta Origins, The First Judgment, and then MDA Rain Code. I think that's my top 5. For new games that I played this year, not for replays. And that was my year. Cheers to 2024. Thank you for your continued support on this channel. I've been doing this for almost 3 years now. I hope I have a successful year. I hope you guys have a successful year. And thank you for watching. I have a cat to go take care of. Excuse me. There's a little spider on the floor. Oh no. It's so small.